Okay, let's do this. Copy video URL. Okay. Yeah, this is already, I already have been working on this for a while. Currently we have this amount of changes. I did split over runtime session from wherever it was defined before. And these are new. That is one change. And the other change is that now runtime session is wrapped inside a thread save unlocked, and this type is being used in, I think, only one place at the moment. Where it is being used inside the RPC main loop and worker, where it really has to be thread safe. It's a start. Once this works, I might replace every instance of runtime session, except maybe where it is clearly single-threaded. Definitely wherever the current code uses a macro, a mutex, of course, to protect the runtime session. But it's so much work. I might as well first get it to work with this one instance here. So I think that instance is, I thought it's being passed to this file, I think. It's not being passed to this, or this is being passed now as a thread safe session. And you could almost say I changed this from runtime session to runtime session TS, and then I started fixing compile errors. The rest follows. It is a lot. Okay, compiling by writing to troop. Now you look there for the first error. Session mutex was not declared. So there's still a lock that uses the old standard mutex here. But we don't have it anymore. That's now wrapped inside the runtime session TS. Just a little bit surprised that the mutex is still being used here. Which function is that? So it should be just a run RPC loop, I think. Yeah, it is in run RPC loop. So I don't have a session. I don't have that anymore. Session mutex. So how many others are there? Passed here. Being passed there. Being passed to the write queue event. So it is being passed as a pair. So this unlocked session and the mutex. So this pair now is just session, which is not the thread safe version, which one is the previous session plus the mutex wrapped up as a pair, as it were. So for these cases it's simple. I'm just going to pass not the mutex, because the mutex is already part of this one. Same thing here. Well, likewise, I think I can just delete wherever it says log, because that's enforced anyway. I don't log anything, and then by the time I really need it, well, it's going to tell me it's not going to compile unless I log it. So the only thing you have to take care of is that the log really must be held between statements. This is a defer log. And then when it is not compact, it must be logged. For compact, provide a summary generator that invokes the model via the chosen provider. Other commands pass an empty generator. They do not compact. So in this case we did not log. And it's also not passing session. What is passing session here? And in this case it is logged. They log it when it is not compact, which would be what? Wait, yeah. No, that's just here. Sorry. Confusing. Bad code as well. It's like really unclear now if it is logged or not and why, and well. Okay, so I'm just going to rely on the enforcement of the thread safe API. I'm just not logging anything. We'll see. Also don't need to pass anything. This is a command request. There's a pointer to the session mutex. Yeah, I don't think so. Which session, you know? So very unclear. Don't you see a session in it here? Why would that have a pointer to a mutex? Delete. This comment here, compact runs on this thread and is not a separate worker. So it cannot hold session mutex for its whole duration. The worker model isn't involved. That makes no sense. The comments are written by, well, everything is written by AI, by the way. Code that we start with. The non-compact / commands are quick and operate under the session log. So, I don't know, man. Ends log for non-compact, defer, leave unlocked for compact. So it can release a reacquire around the model call as needed. Okay, so I'm going to do this anyway, I think. And then the non-compact, it says, is fast, so we can just log it once and then forget about having to log it. But that's very dubious, actually. I don't know, man. I think the problem is, okay, it's like it's called a run command, and then it depends on the command type whether or not session is already logged or not. So I have to look at run command, I think. You can no longer pause a runtime session because we don't have that unless it is locked. And we don't want to lock it before entering this command in case it is the command is a compact. So we can't lock it unless I split this command up into run a non-compact command and run compact command. That would be possible, but well, apparently. Let's see if it detects compact here again. Compact. There is a run compact command. Is this still the same function? Yep. So it does stuff and then it calls these things and that is possible while holding the lock because everything is fast. Which means that everything that this function does before we get here is fast, apparently, because calling this is fast plus what is before it. Except in this case. So this thing is slow and the rest is fast. That's what the comment said. So what I could do is just lock it and then just before calling this unlock it, but that's ugly. I think I'm just going to... I don't like locking something because it is fast, between quotes, because I don't believe in fast. Mutexes should be locked when there is absolutely no possibility to delay it any further. There are exceptions, but no, in this case I think I'm really good. I'm just going to pass the thread safe reference to each of these functions. So we do not lock. And this session is going to be this session is going to be a runtime session then. Runtime session thread safe. Now we also have to change that in a header. This is a .cpp file, so let's find all the run command stuff. Hello, Thorek.h. I think this is the forward declaration. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just try it again. You see in my directory is called alpha -HO. HO stands for humans only, or human only. Just so you know, no AI anymore in this directory. Just compile it again. Where was I? I was compiling in the other directory here. Shit. Yeah, I think this was changed. I just change it again and then write it. Would have been better if it warned me when I was changing it just now in the other editor. No discard attribute can only be applied to functions or to class or enumeration types. I think it just doesn't know what a runtime session is. Well, that is defined in this here, no? Up runtime session is an inaccessible base class. So that means we change the type from runtime session to runtime session TS. And then apparently even still try to lock it. What? Well, that's actually here. But I thought I took care of this. So apparently... Don't tell me all those changes have been overridden. This is the run command. I was just passing it without locking, so we don't do that. Yeah, pretty sure I edited this away already. That's pretty annoying. Prompt worker. Okay, so delete. Oh, that's RPC prompt worker options. And this session is thread safe session. So no mutex. And this must be runtime session TS. It is in Java up RPC. And here we have a write queue event. That is not changed yet, and pausing the session will remove, I did remove all the locking. So we pause a thread safe, a non-locked object, unlocked as it were. I mean, that's what I use for the class name. Then we have to fix this one to accept it. And fix the header, unless it's the same file, rpc output.cpp. I doubt it. No, this was rpc mode.cpp. Okay, this time it's safer to just leave the editor. Oh, yeah. RPC mode.cpp. I don't see it. runtime session thread save. Write queue event. Yep, that was changed. Write skipped queue events. It's not changed, I suppose. Nope. So we change this. Find it in the header. Here's the header. Change this here as well. These should probably all become member functions of runtime session. It kind of depends on how they look internally. If say these functions were now, I was passing a runtime session, now we make it a runtime session TS. If then later I find out that these functions can very well be written by locking the mutex of the session at the top, then I will make them a higher live sorts. Then I will make them a member function. To keep that in mind. Yeah, this won't work, of course. Let's see. So we need to access session ID snapshot, which is a member function. But nothing is locked. This looks so weird. What is this? Can you do that? Statement, semicolon, and then the Boolean expression. I never saw that before. Interesting. I didn't know you could do that. I think, yeah, I don't understand enough of the protocol to begin with to understand if we need to keep the lock between this action and this one. So we now enter here and then we lock it inside, and then when we return it's unlocked again, of course, and then you can lock it again here, but that means that now it's temporarily unlocked in the middle. And the question then, is that a problem or not? I haven't got the faintest clue. Still looks weird here. If not written, return written. Guess written is an standard accept or something. Void result. Standard accepted. So if not written, that means that it is not the expected, so it's not void. So not written means that we actually have an error. Okay, so not written means we have an error and then that is returned. And then, well, we return the error. In this case we did not have an error, so it is written. Write skipped queue events. I think the error only happens in a really bad case, like the O stream was closed. It just didn't manage to write to output at all anymore. That is so disastrous or so destructive. No, what is the word? Well, it's unrecoverable anyway, so might as well stop whatever we were doing. So that means that here we successfully wrote all the cancel stuff, right? The skipped queue events. And the log is on session and session only. And the only thing we do here is read it. Get the session ID snapshot, whatever that is. Store session ID. Session store. This look like stuff that wouldn't change. It's just, this is what it is. That would be very weird if that would being changed from under us. This thing is a bloody mutex, another one. Without a comment what it protects. Ridiculous. Yeah, I think we can. We don't need to keep the log here. We just don't need to keep the log. Okay, so I'll log it here. So you get something like runtime session thread save read access type constructed from the session, and then log it shortly while accessing the member function, the accessor session ID snapshot, which makes a copy, I hope. It doesn't return a reference or something stupid like that. It returns a by value, standard string. So that would work. That kind of holds for everything, doesn't it? If we take a log like this, Well, it depends, of course. So by passing it to a function, say this member function here of the runtime session would return a reference or a const reference, then this object is still alive during the call to whatever we are passing it to. So it would be locked while inside this function. And then only after this function that returns, this is destructed, and then the next statement. So here it is destructed and unlocked again. So you can do this. It just it locks it and it keeps it locked while inside this function, which is actually dubious, because that's not necessary in this case, because it returns it by value. But it's okay if those things return by reference. For example, the model info is returned by reference here. But even with a construct like that, that would be okay. Will things return stuff by value though? What to do? What to do? I think it should make a real big difference between an accessor and something that makes a copy. So an accessor has usually the same name as the variable, the member variable, except the member variable here has an underscore. It's the only one I renamed in the meantime. So this is a real underscore, and there's a real accessor. And we have only one underscore yet, so we have only one accessor. I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to call this accessors, because you definitely get more of them. And then we have a non-const function here, that let's call this a manipulator. Manipulators. And then I have a get here, for example. Get permission rule store. And I should call these also get, because they return stuff by value. But on the other hand, you could use get when, to me, it indicates that it takes a little bit more CPU than just accessing a member variable. An accessor really just return whatever, and then by reference, it's no CPU. And then I use get when it takes a little bit more work, but it's still an accessor in a way. This coin makes this is an AI Sally thing, so like open code and codecs and stuff like that. And pi. Well, it's the first one in C++. Everyone else seems to write it in Rust maybe, but most are in TypeScript. Well, most of this code is written by an AI, and I'm absolutely not happy with it. I'm very unhappy with the code. So someone else started this, and then I joined the project, but I get a lot of freedom. So I'm just rewriting stuff to make it look more like, well, say my inner voice shouldn't start screaming. What the AI did is generate everything as struct. Everything is public. And then what you would expect to be member functions are free functions. It's pathetic. It's really horror. It doesn't have anything to do with C++. But on the other hand, there are hundreds of structs like that. So manually, that's a lot of work to change. I would literally need 1 or 2 years to fix everything. So I'm just starting, and then I hope to see some kind of pattern that maybe in the end I can describe it to the AI how to do it. Because yeah, I don't want to do this manually. Really, everything, not everything at least. But I am doing it manually now for this one struct of the hundreds that we have. Just one, and that's taking days. And as you see, it's still all public, but that's because it is so much work. If I start making it private, then I'll just get 1000 compile errors, and I don't have any overview anymore. So I try to do it as slow as possible. Right now I'm trying to decide to have a structure in the naming of the member functions. I think the word snapshot here also seems to indicate that it is a copy. So we could remove the snapshot and then make it a reference, and that must work because this I added this, and to my feeling that just must work, you know. It should work. But it would still be something that you have to keep in mind, of course. Well, you cannot make a copy of, and you cannot keep a reference. And I've seen the AI also make reference copies to other classes. So there are several classes that use a reference, and that reference is initialized from another reference. And then say we pass a reference here instead of by a. But on the other hand, if you fill a member variable reference with this, that wouldn't even compile, of course, because then you get a reference to a temporary. I mean, what is worse, a reference to a temporary return value or a reference to whatever the class was? I think the first one is even worse. So yeah, we can just return references for everything as long as it's simple. But on the other hand, you know, returning a reference to a function called on a member variable, that seems to be only correct if this is an accessor, which I doubt because the AI doesn't do accessors. So, I don't know. So let's look at the session ID here is by 2 of many. Let's just look it up here. Session ID. Now I might as well jump to the session store again. I think we already were there before. Session ID. I don't think I wrote this. I'm sure I didn't write it, but it does return a reference. Okay, now I want to see how it is implemented. There is a session ID returning a string console reference. Session ID of a session store. Yeah, this one. Yeah, so that's kind of the same pattern. This is C++ 23 years. So here, this is what I was talking about. So there is a member options And then we access the member of a member. Now, of course, this should not have been public. So this should have been an accessor like that. But then so we call an accessor on a member, and then an accessor returns a reference usually. And then that reference is simply passed again as the return value here. So this is a good pattern, I think. We just return references to members of members. Why not? Keep it like that, otherwise we'll get crazy. But that means that this is just a string const reference to a member of a member, which means that it is in the same memory block of the current object, right? And so there is no difference with a reference to any other member of the session store. Which means that this should also be a const reference. Same thing. And then we can call it an accessor, because in the end this is just a pointer to something that belongs to the memory block, the memory region that contains all these variables. Actually somewhere in here. So I think calling an accessor that returns the accessor of a member of us, blah blah blah. Let's call this an accessor. And then it's definitely not a snapshot anymore. And I don't know why it was called snapshot. I just overrule it and I say, does it need to be a snapshot? Maybe I'm wrong, but if you have a good test suite, then that should reveal that. So now we have the pattern that we return a reference to something that is part of this session. This session is not changed, not even inside the function. So it's a constant of this session object, but we log it before running the function. This function, which then uses this string as a reference. I don't want to make a copy of the string, that would be silly as well. So this should then also take a string reference, right? I don't know which, it's hopefully going to be called session ID or something like that. Quest ID, correlation session ID here. So const reference, that's what we changed it to. And now it's moved here. Okay, so that's no longer moved then. Now we make a copy. You can also pass by value and then move. I have to agree that the difference is not that big. But yeah, we have to make a choice. My choice is to pass references from accessors. So we still, now you see here, for the sake of this function, we have to make a copy anyway. So yeah, you could say, pass by value and then standard move. But that would only work for large strings, I think. Because standard move doesn't gain you anything if the string is just stored internally. I don't know what size strings are stored internally in the standard string, but I think it's not that small. Definitely more than 8 bytes, I think. So it would still be more efficient, say, if you are having something that is stored internally in the standard string, then now it isn't copied over and over, but it just passes reference and then only made a copy here once. But then if you see the others, then of course this screams, oh, you have to change all these as well. The problem with that, however, if I do that, then it's going to take 2 weeks before I make it compile again. I don't want to get distracted too much. So I'll just leave this for now. Ignore it, as it were. Or make it compile and I may look at the diff and then get back to it. Because looking at the diff, I'll see that I change this and then maybe, you know, address that next or something like that. It's just gonna be an enormous amount of work. It's cry. Here's another mutex. Okay, I think we decided to not log it, period. Okay. But it's larger than 8 bytes, right? Path, session paths. So we have to, this is making a copy, which doesn't make much sense in my eyes. Still kind of scary though. Why is it making a copy? It is the compact thing. So maybe it thinks that compact was not locked, right? Maybe we lock it here. So it was not locked, now it's compact. So it is not locked, and then we lock it. And then it makes a copy because we're going to need a long access to it. This is going to take a while, it said. Well, I know a compaction is usually taking quite a while. And apparently it's afraid that it is changed from under us, so it makes a copy. But the lock is kept. So why would you make a copy and then pass it while it is being locked? You can't change it while it's being locked. But on the other hand, it should be passed to a worker thread because it's something that takes a long time. So the expectation is that maybe this just does something and then passes to a worker thread and then returns. This deals with errors, I guess. And then maybe this is then the thread or something like that. And then we leave this scope and then it's unlocked again. I still don't understand why it makes a copy. Because, well, depends on where you use that. You see, here the scope ends. The scope of this ends. This scope here. So the copy here is destroyed already here. Make a copy, destroy it here. It's not changed until this thing is destroyed. So it would only make sense if we use path or provider ID in this block. And it doesn't. Oh, it does actually here. Provider ID, path, okay. So we lock it, we make a copy and we unlock it. And then we use the copy. So apparently it should not be locked while calling this. But these two values must be the same as what they were. I doubt that's being used here actually. I think it just makes a copy and then unrelated to that, it calls this. And then while not holding the lock, it calls this. Just passing these two. And note that it is also not pausing the session here. So we're just passing two elements of the session while not pausing the session and not having the session logged. Might make a difference what this is doing. Provider for session model. So model provider ID is equal to the injected provider, return provider handle, a reference or a pointer even to the injected provider. So you make a pointer to the injected provider, which is passed as a reference. Scary shit. Just the built-in provider registry. I just see create a provider. I have the feeling that this is horrible code. My alarm bells go off. As in, this can't work. Well, maybe it gets through the test suite, but yeah, robust is something else. What's owned the new provider? Provider handle. What a klutzy stuff. No, I'm not happy with this at all. Oh, that's horrible. Provider for session model. And this thing is maybe is pointing to this provider here. That is moved, so now compact provider is still pointing to this provider, maybe. And that is being used here. Still having to do with compaction. And I guess that's the last of it. So then the question is, what is the lifetime of that provider? Okay, that's a lot. Let's go back to where we were. And search up for provider. Provider is a word for stuff like OpenAI. This is also something that won't change a lot. This is the provider. It's just being passed to the run RPC loop. I think it's a pretty stable object that won't be changed from under us. We probably also only use it while inside this function. So yeah, it's okay to pass a pointer to it. Still a bit weird, but it's okay, I guess. Back to the session. So I think I was here. It just gets a provider and then returns a pointer to that provider, and it decides whether that is an external thing or it is owned by someone. It's owned or not owned, depending on whether or not this one is a null pointer or it is the injected provider. Very unclear, but looks fast-ish. Well, registry. Built-in provider registry. I have to look it up or something like that. I don't know what it's doing. Definitely doesn't look like it creates threads or something like that. So I would say it's independent of this. Doesn't have anything to do with it. It's a bit a question, or if this must be the member function of session then again. It could be. It could be if this function is super fast. Built-in provider registry. Ooh, that doesn't look fast. Well, it creates a lot of stuff actually. Doesn't look super fast. I don't know, man. I'm gonna call it not fast. Turn registry. What is it doing? Register provider. It provides it registers a lot of providers. Why would you do that? And then return it. Return a registry. And it's going to do that a lot. Looks both like an expensive function as something that you should do only once, but it's just doing it inside this function over and over. Well, I don't know how often it's going to be called, but very horrible code, no doubt. It should be only done once, shouldn't it? Yeah, it's just registering providers. What the hell is that being done inside a function like this? All the AI code is horrible. Can't change too much though, all at once. So let's call this slow. Nah, come on. I want to know how often this is being called. This is too bad. Ouch. It's a test, okay, but here, still ouch. Unbelievable. Why? Well, I also saw it duplicate functions. Sometimes 3 or 4 times. The exact same function. There's a different namespace or in an anonymous namespace. So it needs a certain function which it already had 3 times, and it just makes a copy for the 4th time. Because it needs that functionality and it's too lazy or something to figure out how to get it from the other translation unit through a header. So it just makes a copy. Absolutely horrible code. Typical, I think, starting to see now for an AI is that it generates code that compiles and works, but then you get stuff like burning CPU on this expensive function. Well, it should only have been called once. It doesn't care that it has to call it a lot, because that works as well. It's just slower. There's no testing or consideration for how fast code is, apparently. So this is being called often. So it rebuilds the whole registry for all providers, and then immediately after that, it just gets one provider of it. So it builds them all and then gets one of them. How about you just build one? You know, for the very least. This is sick making bad. Ah. Okay, anyway, I made finally my decision. This is not fast. So I don't want to make this a member function of a runtime session, which means that we need it to be locked from here to till there, of course. A member function of the locked object itself. This is the locked object. Must be locked. So if we are inside the member function of this object, then it will be locked. I don't want to keep the lock from here to there. So I'm going to lock it only while calling the model, getting the provider ID. And it's calling that twice. So one, this is going to be the thread safe runtime session thread safe version. And the header. It's a lot of those. Probably all copies of the same thing. Yeah, what else can it be than exactly the same thing? Just copy, make a copy again and again and again in different objects. And I couldn't find the one I was looking for. Runtime session. Provider ID van de model. Okay, let's pretend that this thing has an accessor and then that we would call that here if, or we can just call the model and then do it like that. So kind of like this, but then for the model instead of the store. We have a session ID, might as well add a provider ID. There's a provider ID in the model. Also a billion copies. Model info. Model info? Yeah, it's called model info and then this is called model. Something we don't do. Should have called should have been called model info instead of a model. Okay, maybe we do want copies actually. I hesitate to pass reference to yeah, I mean you can't really pass a reference to a session without having the log. So that would mean that either I would have to log it here and then call this while having it logged, but apparently that's not done. I mean, the old code did not do that, didn't want to do that, that's why it made a copy. Okay, let's put a copy back then. That's almost the same thing, isn't it? I think it, well, we have a path anyway. It makes a copy of path and current dir. It's a single path. Image attachments, reserve, and then I guess this is copying stuff. All that while having a lock until we unlock it again, which is all the way down here. Yeah, let's just replace the lock with axle lock. Could have done that before as well. Maybe I'm getting lazy here now. In time session thread safe read. I think only read access. Well, we will see if we need more than read access. Session or session. That replaces the lock. Session or path. Session or and dir. Session or session or maybe that's the pattern I should be using. I deleted all those logs. This was changed to a runtime session TS and the mutex is still there. So we need another one here. Believe it or not, I'm fixing compile errors. I haven't compiled a single time. Well, I did in the beginning. But and we reach the end of the function. Awesome. Well, a lot of new problems have appeared. For example, a run RPC loop takes now a runtime session reference. Nobody knows why it is a reference instead of a const reference. Not a single time I need a write access. It would be interesting to see if we can just pass a const reference. Use the compiler, right? My god, these were not even updated yet. Runtime session TS const reference. So we're using this now. And this one must be the same. Yeah, we have LSP as well. LSP, MCP. I'm just working on our RCP now. Okay, what is the compile error? No discard attribute can only be applied to functions or to class of enumerated types. I guess it doesn't know what this type is. And that happens here. That's weird. Maybe not that weird. Not a single over up. What? Oh, yeah. Never mind. Runtime based prompt metadata does not name a type. Well, that must be a circular header dependency because I do include this. So it should be known in our app. Let's make ctags. Have a look if that is actually in that namespace. That is in our app. So it must be a circular header dependency. Let's have a look. Yep, it's in the runtime already. So the problem is that runtime.h is just defining too much. How do I solve that? I think any struct that starts with runtime should probably get its own header eventually anyway. So yeah, maybe I'll should do that right away. It's not really a way around it, I think, for this case. I mean, We really need a definition here. Cannot use a forward declaration or something. I never got what the name of the class was. I just added it here and then try to find it again, and I still don't know what it was. That was the name. Dot H. We are in Java up anyway. Runtime base prompt metadata. Where is that defined? Also an optional. Oh, of course, it's an opt. Yeah, no. And these things are defined, yeah, among others there. It's maybe in other stuff. C standard int, that's the only one then. Nah. And it's being used here, so I have to include it anyway. Well, I also have to include it in a runtime session, I think. So should not, that is already included. Runtime session is also using it. So let's just add it here then. And that is a thing in up. So yeah, include the thing, which is then now needed for that, and no longer needed here. Well, defined there. That is runtime itself. I removed it from runtime.h and moved it to this. Optional, I can't type. No, but it is open in my browser and everywhere, but I'm not using it in during the stream. Well, this code is written by AI and it's for an AI itself. Java is one of the A's is probably for artificial intelligence. Well, not really, but you get the point. You get the idea. But I'm doing everything manually here during the stream. Let's see. Error runtime prompt override does not name a type. in runtime session.h. I have no clue. Oh, that is that one, and that is that is defined in runtime.h. So that's again a circular header dependency then, because we do include it. Probably. So I have to split that one. I have to split that one up as well then. Might as well do the same thing then. Include the thing that we don't have, because it defines that, and then remove it from here. And then we have to remove it from runtime.h and put it in a new file like that. Runtime overrides, remove, paste, pragma once, namespace up, oops, ava up. What am I doing? Hitting the wrong keys. Okay. And again, all those annoying headers. This time we need optional again, and string and vector. And that's it. I needed to include it here as well, because it's used. Well, no, it's included from a runtime session, because there it is. And that goes on and on and on for every class. Context, blah blah blah. I guess we literally have to wait a minute, I made a double copy. Context source metadata. Let's go here, then we can copy it. I'm gonna need it to do it for this one and that one and that one, and basically all of them, I think. Let's do that. Include the next one. It's kind of obvious, right? These are obvious. The name is the same as the class that we include. Let's just not do this. And then that one. And that one. You would almost think that we don't need a runtime.h anymore here. Let's try that. And then I need to do this for these three. I just added 3. I think so. I think I forgot this macro in the previous one. At least the header for it. Pragma once. Include file system. include. Yeah, really? Yeah. See, standard in. Int. Come on. Ava debug print members on storage and include Ava, I guess, contacts. And if not, then that should have been it. Context, oh my god. Oh, well, we don't have that, I'm sure of it. Where does this thing come from? It comes from context loader. .h. Some kind of Ava thingy. What is it? I don't know what I meant. I don't know what I meant. Now I have all of them. Runtime.h. Yeah, I don't think so. Yes, just copy this to this one here. I guess sure, like that. Something tells me there's more that I need to copy. Include Ava debug print members on .h for the macro. Actually, I wanted to look at this one again because string, because I moved this one, exactly this one. This then should be in that other header as well. Like there. What shall we do? The other header. First header, the header before. Context source. This one. That is missing and includes Ava debug print members on the edge. in the end you have to do all of them, I think. Just immediately a lot of work. Pragma once in space Ava up. So, more and more, just shitload of circular header dependencies here. What is exactly the reason? The reason is that runtime.h needs runtime session and therefore includes that. And runtime session needs runtime.h. Thought I removed that already actually. One of those dependencies is a bit weird. Not that I regret splitting them up in separate files, but still. I removed it even. There is no include of runtime.h anymore in this file, is there? It's maybe, it's probably included from one of these. Well, not these. This one then. Project Trust. No, it's included from runtime compaction, which is included from. Well, we're compiling this. Okay, that includes runtime compaction. .h. That includes runtime. I can't blame it. And that includes this. That would be weird then. Because this is defined by runtime.h, but at the top it's already including this one that needs that, which then includes that, but it's skipped because we are already inside it. So this is not defined as a result. So the problem is that if this needs that, then this should never include that. So why is it doing that? Oh, I added it back for the thread save type, I think. I removed it. See, I had a forward declaration, and then I added it back. I added it back for this type. Yeah, that's why we get all this shit suddenly. Oh, that's annoying. Arg. I can do a forward declaration for the TS as well. Maybe I should have done that. Why does runtime.h declare this to begin with? Because it ticks in a runtime session. It is candidate for becoming a member function of a runtime session. It's probably should be a member function of a runtime session. So this should be defined in that header, not here. Let me start with deleting this. So we don't do that. And if we don't do that, then we can't do this, which is the only one. So who cares? We're just going to move that. From here to here. That's certainly not a circular header dependency, is it? I think got its own header, so we have to include that. Yeah, or not. I was moving all those runtime structs to their own header. Might as well continue doing that. There's only 3 left. Get rid of the whole runtime.h. While I'm doing that anyway, let's do that, right? So okay, 3 more. And then I should move all of them to a runtime namespace, I think, because they all begin with runtime. Let's make a new namespace for that. Well, not immediately. The moving, yeah. Should I do the moving? There's only 3 left. Well, only. It's still a lot of work. If only AIs were good enough that they could say, hey, move those 3 to their own file. I think it would completely screw up. I don't trust AIs at all anymore. It's dumb work to do it manually. I hate it. But okay, let's make a copy of this thing so I know what it is. That one, and that one, and that one. Edit. Try to do all 3 at once. I don't know if this is going to work, but and I probably should use one of the ones that we already made, because it has something that we can copy from. For example, most of this, actually all of it, and then we go to next, paste. We need a new name and we need new stuff here. Actually, I'm going to copy all of it, so let's wipe it out. And copy this to the next one and the next one. And then we are going to look for the first one, which is here. So this must be deleted and moved to what was it? Runtime open options. That's this one now. So I put that here. And I need an include file system as well. File system. There is no vector here. File system optional string. And then stuff. Runtime prompt overrides. Agent mode. Tool visibility options. And XTG path. This one should have a toString, or no, I didn't move that. Just doesn't have a toString. And I see an Ava config here. It's XTG path. It's probably also defined in XTG path, isn't it? Ava config XTG paths. Oh, nobody knows. Header file. XTG path there. This config. Oops. Oops. What happened? No, I don't know where I am. Here, I suppose. Config XTG path. Already have that. Okay, next. Or rather, previous. Boing. Yeah. Yeah, I might as well copy them all. Or delete them all, right? Next, next, next. And then we put them both here. Except that we shouldn't have put this one here. We delete that. Next. Put that here. Over here first. The agent mode. Already have that here, I think. Agent mode. And this one was that. This one does need vector, but it does not need optional. Does need string. And then we have context source metadata. And includes. This is also defined in Ava opt, isn't it? It is Ava opt. And this as well, and this as well. So let's not do that. Oops. Alphabetical order. Yeah, I think we have all of it. And I'll just compile it again. Troop. And there it is. No discard, blah blah blah. So it doesn't know what runtime options is. Seriously? Oh yeah, of course. I just moved everything to its own header, so this thing now doesn't know anything anymore, and we have to include all those things. However, why would I define it here? I think they should be going into wherever, well, this is being defined, I think. This talks about open runtime session. Runtime open options? Yeah, I don't know. Could also define it in runtime session. Could define it in the runtime session. Looks like a member function of runtime open options. Maybe, you know. So let's move this one to runtime open options. It isn't that easy. Time open options. Probably. Shift V, delete. Next. Put that here. And then I guess there's more like that. Well, runtime stuff. So we do it like that, and this should be in runtime.h, because it takes a runtime session thing. This one as well. This could be put in XCG path, maybe. Pit unclear. This also runtime session. Runtime session. Unclear. Very unclear. Maybe this one should stay here. Nah. Compaction stuff. Run prompt, runtime, lots of runtime stuff, runtime functions that take a runtime session. Let's move that to runtime sessions. So, what was it? Runtime session.h. And then I should no longer need that, is the hope. So this one, not this one. This one. and not the rest, but all of this. This one too? No, this is compaction stuff again. We need this probably. We don't need this. No, okay. Time. There's a runtime in it. Vector. I see a vector. I see a session entry or something else. Standard string view, I already have that. Standard size, I have that. Another string view. Vector. I think that's it. Don't need any of these. Don't need debug, of course. Thread save, don't need thread save. What do I need from this? I need session entry. Oh, standard function, sorry. Include functional. Result of core result.h. Put it at the top. Oh, nothing. Include. That one is needed for this, and then we need that one, session entry. It is defined in session store. Compact our session compaction.h. X3 path. No, that's it. And I missed one. Model info is no longer known. Oh, here, yeah, I didn't see that one. A different file. Amazing. Now, basically all the other files that only include runtime.h suddenly have no clue anymore about all these clauses that they used to define. Oh, that's going to be a lot of work. So we're going to have errors about stuff, and then maybe something like has not been declared. Maybe we can do it per class. So this error is going to pop up, I think, often. I grab error history. Grep error. So let's do something like this. Only one file. It's again in alpha up. Probably don't need this at all. What about other stuff? What those other headers, other classes, I mean. But they should be starting with runtime. So like this one, I think that's the only one. That now has its own header also. Yeah. So I might as well include that immediately here. That's the only downside of this keyboard. The shift key is too slow. So you have to type shift for the hashtag. And then it's still, by the time I let it go, of course, and then I type an I and it's still capital I. It's just a tiny little bit too slow. Let's see. I'm gonna do that through this. Make look at troop. There's another problem here with not knowing session store. Oh yeah, well, not including runtime.h is going to cause it to miss a lot of headers, of course. I could have known this one. That's defined in here. Oh, that's not defined in here. It's defined in here. What? all of them are in up, Java up. Did I repeat that? What the hell? Execute, substitute, blah, 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 colon, anything with nothing. Sort unique. X args echo. Okay, I'm lame. CT. Execute, substitute. Oh, lame for doing this. Java up. Edit those files. I feel like replacing this whole header because it only got a few functions left. Might as well see if they are actually needed. Runtime session.h. Ah, not that again. I guess that runtime session.h. Thank you very much. Include is already defining runtime reasoning selection or no? Look, which headers do we have here? I don't see a core result here, but everything is including it. I see a lot of headers, so probably you already have that one. But do we also have model info? Yeah, model config, that's probably the one. And do we have this one, reasoning selection? I don't think we have that one. Don't have that one. We do have that one. Of course you have that one. Runtime session also defines optional and string for that matter. Theoretically, you wouldn't need that then, right? Optional and string, totally needed here. Just delete it. There was a shitload of other functions. Wait a minute, let's start over. I hope not that they need mutex. I'm pretty sure I deleted it. Session ID snapshot. There's not even a snapshot anymore in it. Probably, I don't know. But this is definitely not needed. But if it was needed, then this now probably was TS. Which then must be defined, but it is now defined in the runtime session. So yay. Except of course that this whole function should not be here, I think. Probably also be in a runtime session. But well, yeah, we have more stuff like that here. This is nonsense, it should never be here. That neither. And then we don't need a mutex. And we have the runtime session, so we don't need a string. And the runtime session defines vector, not string view. I'm gonna delete the vector. What about the run state? There's no run state here. What is the run state needed for? Nobody knows. Delete it. 3 more. Oh, wait a minute. Let's copy this. Next. Oops. What the? Delete that. Delete that. Delete that. String view. String view. String view. Okay. Next. And I forgot again to copy this. We need a runtime session, so we already have this one, I bet. Prompt overrides, yep. And this one, and the mode, agent mode. Yep. Probably tool visibility and extra key path, all of them. Except tools, oh, tools is also, yeah, we don't need any of that. Nor these. File system. There's no file system here. Okay, let's keep file system. Provider. There is no provider here. Oh, really? Yeah, that's an RPC. It's still, well, up, but not the same directory. So the prompt state. Just the same thing, but now with a different class. Let's look for all of them. Over up, prompt state. The shit about no discard, and then the only reason is that it doesn't know a clause. Only one. XDG paths. Model info and mode. Runtime prompt overrides. het is wel een soort uniek. Yay. Well, I still have. Yeah. I thought there was no arrows in headers anymore, but no such luck. A run state. This is in RPC. No, no more errors. I thought it takes so long now. .cpp. Do I need to filter on that? No, there's an header file. Let's just filter on it, right? Grep -v. And then, define .h colon some digits. Actually, even like that, but this is a digit. You should give me only headers. Runtime options has not been declared. Well, runtime session also not. Let's begin with that. This is in RPC, so I just add here runtime session.h. And then God knows how much we will have included. Runtime open options. Separately required in RPC. Include of up. Then open options. Now we have all the headers. Or something. Let's go over the was not declared in this scope. But that's quite a lot. Oh yeah, I removed the snapshot. And the mutex, of course. I'm confused. Ah, yes, like that. What? Oh no, never mind. Well, actually, yes, mind. Now I remember it again. It was turned into a member function as well. Might as well call that just ID. Poo poo. Big one. Do I not have a provider ID in my runtime session thing? Yeah. Yeah, if we have a session, then it is locked. So I think I just do this. Oh my god. Why is this logging? Why is this logging session mutex? Hello, duplicated code. Getting slightly tired. I think I'm gonna go eat. So shop close in 1 minute. No eating? Yeah. Anyway, I had enough compile errors for today, if you ask me. There's no end to it, so no end in sight. Yeah, I'm going to stop.